What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, Spiritual Hype Man, and I'm super happy to be back. I hope you're enjoying listening to some of those episodes we had with some of our special guests, Eric Libby, and of course, John Mangano. Shout out to him. And shout out to all the guests that have been on here, sharing their stories, sharing their perspective, really good ones. Hopefully, you're having a good day, and if you're not, just remember it's the thoughts in our head, and really it's just identifying those moments that we're not feeling good and taking some time to actually like figure out what do I need in this moment to get to the best level that I can get to right now. And so that being said, let's just hop in. There's been lots of things that are happening, lots of perspective, but the first one that jumps to mind right now that I want to talk about is what I've the last couple of weeks, what I've actually been reinforcing the practice, right? The decision making really is what it is when I get to a level of, let's say I'm doing something and I'm in a certain situation and then I go into another situation. So let's say, for example, I don't know, in my personal case, like doing day trading for a couple hours in the morning and then going into work mode. There's a level of transition of what's happening in my internal like system, like brain wise, body wise, and then what I need to get into a different mode, right? So like it's these somewhat similar thought processes in certain aspects, like the brain is activated in a certain way, but it's two different parts of the brain, or it's two different, experiences that we're going through that you're putting your not only your body but like obviously your mind in terms of what you're thinking, how you're deciding to do what, and then what comes next. So going from one aspect like day trading and then going into the second aspect of what I do is like running the business, and then also doing the production, the content creation, the editing, things like that. So I've realized that, and or let's throw in like a meeting with Patty, right? So like we have a strategic meeting about the workshop that we have coming up, and then what we need to do, what needs to get done, what's the process of creating this process. So let's say these three situations, but I go from day trading in the morning, and let's say I'd have either a really good day or a really bad day, or just a moderately medium day, like whatever those is, like, right, you're battling those emotions, and then you're going to go straight from that into either doing some work or going into a meeting. I've realized that I need, me personally, right, and maybe not everybody's like that, but I know that I need some buffer time in between the two situations so I can like so I can settle down. I can either like land the plane and then like basically ground myself and then get ready to take off to the next situation or the next journey. And then also before I take off is like give myself enough time to like wind down from the initial one. So let's say from day trading in the morning, and then I give myself a little bit of prep time to be like, okay, what am I going into next? What am I walking into next? And what am I trying to accomplish? And how should I, like, what is the state that I should be in to maximize or be as efficient as I can with my time, emotions, decision makings, and how I communicate with others, including, and for most situations, my situation is with Patty, right? And then reinforcing of like being conscious of the idea of understanding that you need this, and then identifying and like making it part of your like habit or part of your like daily actions, right? And so I've realized that in the last couple of weeks that if I take time to identify that and mentally go through that in my head before I go into this next situation, instead of going like, okay, I'm done, the market's closed, or I'm done at this time, I'm going right into like answering emails or work without having that transition. For me personally, I know it was tough. Now it becomes easier, and it actually puts me on this like proper way of thinking about what state I need to be in to make the best decision for myself and the situation within that next situation. I hope that makes sense. And if there is something that like that I've gotten from it is just like less like, I guess, the feeling of like chaos, anxiety, like I got all these things we got to get done. It's almost taking the blocking of scheduling approach. And this is where it goes on to the next, right? So the next thing after that, I realized that is instead of just having like my schedule of hours of like, okay, this hour from this hour I have this meeting, and then I have to go do this, and I have to go do that, and that, like, and every day it could be somewhat frantic, things like that. I started scheduling just days for certain activities, and then I went even one step further and really like blocking off, like block scheduling. So blocking off certain hours during the day to do the same exact thing. And if I, and give myself like enough time there where it can be a couple of things depending on what necessarily needs to be done. So the example would be, from 9:30 to like 11:30 or 12, I'm trading. And then after I'm trading, then like I get like a 15-minute break to just kind of settle down and get to the next situation. And then after that, from that, like, what is that, 12:30, let's say 12:15, like, I don't know, 1 o'clock. So 1 o'clock, I think that's what it is, 1 to 2 o'clock, I'm in, email mode, invoicing, etc. And within that hour, I have to get all that stuff done. If I don't, then tomorrow, then I continue with it tomorrow. And then after that, I get into the creation mode, the content mode. And so this blocking of scheduling of what I've started scheduling my time around this blocking type framework has really helped also ease up the anxiety of like, I got all these things to do. It's like, okay, well, you have all these things to do, but they fit within this block. So you have to be super efficient with this block to get it done. And if you don't get it done, then you do it tomorrow at the same time. But you specify that time for that certain project or certain aspect of like the business or et cetera, et cetera. So I've been loving that a lot. And it's been giving me a lot of, not just clarity, but more of just a weight off your shoulders thinking that you have all these things and how do you get to what first, sort of thing. So those have been the two ahas that as like a characteristic trait of my individual self has developed and continued to reinforce that. Now, super excited. That's also given us the opportunity to like be efficient with our time and then continue to like to do these other things that, are necessary to do to advance where we want to be, right? If we see it sort of as a vision moving forward. So I hope that helps. Again, just as a macro level, it's like understand that when we go from situations to situations, whether it's work to home to work, whatever, going to in-laws, going to meetings versus like doing work at your desk. Like there's different, like we go into these different modes, these different rooms, these different situations, and there's going to be different parts of the brain, different parts of the emotion that is going to be affected. And so ideally it's like being able to give yourself enough time to, one, understand that that's true, two, considering time between events or spaces to give yourself the prep work mentally and emotionally and physically to get ready for the next situation in a way that makes you like optimal. Yeah, it makes you most optimal in that situation for whatever it is. And then lastly, really just block scheduling, like scheduling your certain blocks of time that you get XYZ done within that block. If you don't get it done that day, like if you don't fit, like let's say it hits 2 o'clock, right? And that's the only time that you scheduled for your time, it's on to the next thing. And so it sort of gives you forced accountability, as well as, a future notion of knowing that you're going to do it anyway. And so you don't freak out and add all this additional pressure on things. All right, homies, I hope you loved that one. I hope that was useful. Keep crushing it. I got to figure out this whole situation of how we're going to connect, and we're going to like start, putting the community for questions and answers and just sharing stories, et cetera, et cetera. Just, keep listening, keep crushing it. Share it with someone that you may think needs to hear it. And just remember, nothing changes until you do. We'll see you guys again on the next one. Peace.